let's get into this. So, Adam, how is mindfulness incorporated into our app?
Yeah, so for mindfulness in our app, we have worked with Katie Green, and we have incorporated some breathwork sessions. So she's an accredited breathwork and yoga teacher, and we wanted to. When I talked to her about it, it was about trying to create an introduction for people to get started, who maybe have never done any breathwork before. So that was the brief. And she nailed it. So she came through with some shorter sessions for people to do maybe in the morning to start their day, through to some longer ones if you're a bit more experienced, and also some evening meditations and breathwork sessions that you can do to unwind for your day. So I feel we're really lucky to have her to do that. It's so soothing listening to her.
Her voice is so nice on the app.
I know, it's amazing.
She has a lovely voice.
She does have a lovely voice. It calms me. I really enjoy I've done all of them now, and I really enjoy them.
If I was on an app doing mindfulness, everyone would just assume it's the lead singer Jebediah talking. Have you guys heard him? He sounds
I've heard you say that joke several times.
Really?
And what does he sound like?
He sounds like he's got a peg on his nose.
Yeah.
Oh, because you haven't had your nose up.
No.
Yeah.
It's another story.
Yeah, it is another.
There is also a cool story, Cal. There is also Katie did one being, she thought with a bit of a fitness theme. She's done an energizing breathwork session, which is really cool too, and it actually really gets you primed. And it's like, I'm not going to say it's like taking a pre-workout, but it really gets your heart rate actually elevated and primes your system to hit the gym hard, which is also pretty cool. So it's going both ways. It's not just to wind down and to calm you down. It can, the power of your breath to can upregulate and downregulate your system. So that's pretty cool that we have that.
We will get Katie on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because she is a legend and she is the expert in this field. So it would be awesome we'll get her on here, and she can speak a little bit about how she's created those different sessions in there, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's important to add too that breath work is a big part of mindfulness, but it is a tool of mindfulness.
Yeah, definitely.
There's ways that you can still be mindful. Breath work is one that we've had a lot of success and benefit to, all us. And it's one that we know really, really works, and we can use it in a variety of ways. But I think it's important to note that it is a tool of, it is one of the methods that you can use for mindfulness, and maybe that's something that we can touch on a little bit later, some other mindfulness tools.
Yeah, as I feel like mindfulness is a little bit of a buzzword, isn't it? It's like mindfulness, and there's so many different things that come under that banner, and breathwork is what we have leaned into in the app.
Yeah.
The core is another buzzword. We should talk about that later.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. Cal, why did we think about adding all of this into the app?
I guess just like I spoke about before, so mindfulness obviously has its obvious benefits of keeping us present and that kind of thing, and allows us to live in the now and not worry or not worry about the future or regret stuff we've done in the past and that kind of shit. So but in terms of for a training methodology, we use it at the gym for end of all our classes, where we use breath work, which, like we talked about, is a tool of mindfulness. It allows you just kind of be present and in your own body, and by doing so it helps regulate your nervous system. So once we finish exercise, we're in fight or flight. So exercise is a stress. It's a good stress. I think they call it eustress. I think it's EU stress. That's how it's spelt. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it is. But it's a good stress, right? It's a healthy stress, but it's still, the body doesn't really understand the difference between a healthy stress and a negative stress. It still raises cortisol levels and does all that. I guess the heart rate. So we call that fight or flight mode, which we're in. And then it's really hard for the body to recover in that mode. So often people, what they'll do is they'll start stretching straight away after a recovery session, which is fine, and that does slowly calm the nervous system down a little bit. But adding breath work in there really takes us out of fight or flight and puts us into rest and digest. So the body allows itself to relax and allows itself to actually take in all that recovery work that we're doing, or add to it, or add to the recovery work that we've already done. By calming the nervous system, the body can then recover in that state of rest and digest. So you get all the benefits of, adaptation from metabolic stress, all the health benefits from the cardiovascular stuff, from, the higher intensity work and all that jazz, by just down regulating and having that nervous system back in rest and digest. So we use breath work as a tool in that regard. So we do practice mindfulness after we do finish training. So we've figured out the benefit for that. So in terms of a training methodology, that's why we use it. But I guess I think I'd probably prefer you to answer why, outside of training methodology, Shelbs, why do we add it in? What benefit does it have to people in terms of their general wellness, which is what we want this app to be, right? We want this app to be somewhere people can go and they get a good spectrum of wellness for them.
I just think I think we look at fitness and being fit and healthy in a bigger picture. So you can be really strong and lift heavy weights. You can be really fit and run a long way. But if your mental side of things and if that mindfulness side of it isn't strong, like, can you really say that you're fit in all aspects of...
Are you describing me?
Something like that. So you can do all of those things, but if your mindset isn't strong, like, I don't know, I wouldn't call myself fit if I didn't have some kind of balance with all of those things. And there's many competitors and athletes out there, so maybe I'm talking about you then, but
washed up.
that they have to sacrifice a little bit of their mindset to be able to compete. But I think as a general population, and what we're trying to do with TMO is more as a holistic approach to wellness, is make you really fit in your mind as well as being fit in the gym. So
Awesome. I was going to say, I'd love to have your take on this, Ads.
I think I see it as mental strength and building our resilience. We test ourselves with different workouts, especially Shelby's. Move fast. And you discover strength you potentially didn't know you had. But then with the power of using some breathwork techniques, or as Carl mentioned, there's many different techniques you can use for mindfulness. You can have that tool in your belt to, when you are maybe struggling in different moments with the stresses of life, pull those out, and that really helps to bolster your mental toughness that you have. I know Cal and I have talked about this before, about being relatively sensitive people, that you feel a little bit more attuned to when things are not quite right. So having these tools has been really helpful, and I do feel like I have more resilience for that, rather than having those times where you can't regulate yourself and you just feel a bit all over the place. So that's what it means to me, and that's what I'm excited to share for people who might not have ever used these before, because it's certainly been such a powerful tool for me. And I know even there's almost certain little pattern recognitions, or like you might know, in a particularly stressful time with work or time of year, whatever it might be, that there's certain times that you need to make sure you're doing these practices, so you can show up best for those you love around you, and which is what I think ultimately we're trying to do when we're trying to be fitter in the gym, fitter and healthier, and I know it's been massive for me to help with my mental
I
resilience.
think with Cal, especially when you were going through tougher times, I could always tell whether he had his mindfulness toolbox or whether he was doing those things. Like those breathwork sessions and everything that you were doing were helping you so much, and it was really evident when you were letting those things slip, that the way you handle things and your resilience to them, like you said, was so much different to when you were regularly doing those things.
It's reps for the brain, right? Like we talk about reps, we get physically strong by doing reps, but mindfulness practice is just like working out the brain, like you guys said. Exactly like you guys said, it's making the mind stronger. So every time you you do your breath work, every time that you know, I had a psychologist once who said to me, every time that you allow a thought, so you know, your mindfulness, you just you know, one of the practices you can do as a tool is you just sit with your thoughts, right, and you just kind of allow them to just be, and you don't try and hide them, you don't try and push them away, but it was every time that you allowed a thought to kind of just come and then pass, and the next thought, she told me to think of it like reps for my brain, so that was a rep. You know,
good analogy for you. She knew that would last.
She knew it would work.
She was very clever. Very expensive. Very clever. Yeah.
So I think we've answered this a little bit, but let's chat a bit more about what mindfulness means to each of us. Ads, what do you reckon?
I know it's... I think the best way I can describe it is that I've had times where I've, you know, been, you know, maybe you feel like you're woken up on the wrong side of the bed, and you know, you've been either just a bit snappy, you know, you're not your best version of yourself. So I've gone away and done, you know, whether it's some breath work or a short meditation or something like that, and then I know I've been able to then, you know, maybe either put things into perspective and maybe calm myself down or whatever it might be, and then I can come back and I know that I'm I'm definitely a better version of myself, and I will act, and you know, your actions towards others will be different to what they would have been if I hadn't done it. And that was when I realized that was huge for me, and recognizing that it's almost not even about me, it's about, for like, you know, my wife Ash, or like Lenny, or my family, or all good friends. It's almost like you know, not a duty, it sounds a bit serious, but it's important for them that you show up as your best. So that's why it's so important for me. And coming back to what like meditation means, meditation is to become familiar with. So you're just learning essentially about how you tick. And I'm certainly really passionate about learning more and more about how I work. And I think I've definitely noticed myself, I just feel you can handle situations a lot better than maybe what you would have when you were younger or didn't have these practices. So yeah, it means a lot to me, and it means it's just a practice and it is a practice that is not easy. And I know, you know, I think ironically some people who say that they can't do it, they probably need to do it the most. And certainly and I think everyone would greatly benefit from it. And I think the more you dive into it, and you see the great leaders of the world, or the people who, you know, had great success, who you might not think would have ever done that, they've all got some sort of mindfulness practice, whether it's routine in the morning and they do a cold plunge, or they, you know, whatever it might be. It looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something, and it's something becoming more popular, but you know, it's cool for people to learn more about themselves.
It's a good trend. Like if you want to have fads,
yeah,
it's a good fad to have.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you see some of these kids walking around these days, and they look like the cast members of Friends. That's the fashion these days, right?
Yeah. But a cooler trend is mindfulness.
Way cooler. Yeah.
What does it mean to you?
I went from being a smart ass now to being serious. Yeah, like Shelb said, I very much need it. I feel like if I don't have some sort of practice, and I'm very big on the breath work in terms of my tool for mindfulness, I definitely use the breath a whole lot. For me, sitting with my thoughts, not necessarily focusing on my breath, but or sometimes, you know, you can use it as an anchor. So I guess talking a little bit more about that. So what the fuck's an anchor? It's like, so when you meditate, which is a question I'd like to ask both of you after this, actually, the difference between mindfulness and meditation, or if there is a difference. We'll talk about the anchor then. Digress. What it means to me is it stops me from worrying about the future and stressing about the past. So for me, it allows me to be present. And when I look at my life presently, I'm very fortunate to have a really good life. So if I can sit with my the present me and what's going on, I start being able to handle situations a lot better, and I'm just in that calmer state. So when I use my mindful practice, it regulates my nervous system. I don't get as anxious, and when I get anxious, I get cloudy and foggy, and I can't make proper decisions. But and Shelves will adhere to this. Adhere?
Yeah.
Right?
Attest.
Attest. That's the word I'm looking for. That when I'm regularly practicing, I'm a little bit more of a flow state with my life, so I can make better decisions and good decisions, rather than just being. If I'm having like an anxiety attack, or I'm suffering from a bad day of my headspace, I find it really hard to make decisions, and I'll rely on Shelves a lot to make those decisions for me. But I don't often get in those states when I'm practicing my mindfulness, or if I am in that state and I do practice my mindfulness, it really allows me to clear my head and make better decisions. And when I make better decisions, I can actually do things productive, or things that are actually going to benefit me, being in that environment, in that state. Breathwork is a big one that I use. I think the biggest one for me is going to the beach and just jumping in the ocean. That for me is the best mindfulness practice that I'll ever have. When me jump, and it sounds all like wooey, and I guess it doesn't, but
it doesn't.
Nah, cool. I'm a man. For me, like jumping under the water and just like being there in the ocean, and it's like the feel of the cold water. It's being silent underwater. It's just being present down the beach that has so much energy. For me, it just puts me back in my body, and I'm there, and I'm in that spot, and it just makes everything better. So breathwork is a big one for me, but the biggest tool that I will use is just jumping in the ocean.
Yeah, I remember very clearly like one specific day when you were having a really bad day and you were having a panic attack, and all I had to do was get you in the car, and then we got to the beach and it was like stormy. Remember that? And it was like stormy and cloudy, and I was like, get in that ocean, and you just like dove in, and just like the tide, the waves going in and out, and you came back in, you're like, whoa. It's like it was a really good
it's
reset.
definitely a massive reset for me. So it allows me, short answer, it allows me to function better in daily life if I'm regularly practicing my mindfulness practice, I guess. Shelves, what does it mean to you?
I think for me, I look at it quite simply, and I feel, I'm not going to use that B word because I don't like it, but with a lot going on in different projects and things in life that we're trying to keep up with.
What's the B word?
It's busy.
Busy. I'm not using that word anymore.
I was like, bitch.
I know. I was like, quite sinister.
The busy word. With a lot happening in different projects, I think incorporating some kind of mindfulness into my day, or whether that's 1 minute or 2, 5, 10 minutes or whatever it is, it allows me just to bring it all back. And I think at the end of the day, when I haven't done anything for myself or to do that, I feel myself getting snappy with the kids, or not being present. And I think once I've done something like this with a bit of breath work or time on my own, or going for a walk, even listening to a podcast or whatever it might be, I just feel like I can handle life so much better. And I think what I have accepted is that mindfulness doesn't need to be an hour-long practice. Sometimes I get home, I've driven home and I've had clients all morning, and I might just sit in my car for 2 minutes and just breathe and sit and not have my phone, just sit there before I go inside, because then I know once I get in there, then I'm on again with the kids or whatever it might be. So I think that's a big thing for me, is understanding that mindfulness doesn't have to be a huge part of your life. And I think just like our app, right, like what we're saying, exercise doesn't have to be a huge part of your life. It just has to be a part. Nutrition is important, and we need to incorporate it and be really mindful of what we eat so that we can be healthy. And just the same, mindfulness only needs to be a part of our day. It doesn't need to take up the whole day, where it can help us feel so much better.
Yeah, I love that. I'd like to add as well that really, coming back to what Cal was talking about, and I massively agree with that. I think firstly, just adding water to anything, you feel better, but our physical state has a massive impact on our mental state, and if we change our physical state, you'll change your mental state too. Yep. And so really, you can look at even doing a workout. is you're changing your physical state, you're changing your, that's an element of mindfulness for sure. Even nutrition, someone might really love cooking, and that's a state of mindfulness where they can be really present in what they're doing. You know, and then the breath work is a more obvious tool for where people can really, you know, help to get in touch with or recenter themselves. But I think that's the one of the big takeaways is not just sitting cross-legged, you know, on the beach. It's mindfulness looks so different for other people. You know, it might be, some people might like knitting. I know Cal loves knitting.
Yeah, he's a knitter.
But it's like whatever, and that's what I want to encourage anyone to try to find what works best for them. But I definitely think, relating back to the app, we've got some amazing tools that can really help. But yeah, even just getting a sweat on, and I know it helps all of us. We've all come in you know, maybe an afternoon after a long day, and you know, you can tell when you're like, maybe we'll just leave him to his work out there. So yeah, I think hopefully there's a few tools that can help people.
Would you then and then go like bringing it back to the absolute basic, right? Mindfulness would be any sort of practice that keeps you present.
100%.
Definitely.
Yeah. Like I think that can just be defined. Like, and I actually haven't googled that. I don't actually know if that's right. Some guys probably saying that's completely fucking wrong. But I think for me, the definition of mindfulness is doing any sort of task or activity or practice that keeps you present to where you are. You know, so like you said, for the app's sake, we've chosen breath work, right? But it could be absolutely anything.
Could be just the workouts itself.
Yeah. Like, you know, and that's where I kind of want to lead into. What do you guys think the difference between mindfulness and a meditation is? Do you think there is any difference, or do you feel, because you could be being a meditative state is that element of being present too, right? Like you're there and you're in whatever you're in, right? But it's kind of what we just described, or I described mindfulness as being in that present state. So do you think there is a difference between meditation? Do you think meditation is a practice of mindfulness?
I think it is. I think that there is a difference. I think meditation, quite often an aim of meditation is, well, firstly is to become familiar with, as I said, but also to change your brain state. So going from we're currently in beta brainwaves right now, going to then a higher frequency of going to alpha and then theta, where your brainwave actually slows down, but we're going into more of a lucid state, which is, I would look at that as more of a meditation. And mindfulness, which can be done through breathwork too, different breathwork practices which can tie in with meditations. And whereas mindfulness is more the umbrella term for all of that, and I think meditation comes underneath it. But as I said, I think meditation, rather mindfulness is more, becoming more in the present moment, mindful of whatever you're doing, mindful of you know how you're feeling, and even now as a dad, actually, something I try to do and recognise with my young fella Lenny when he maybe is not feeling, you know, he's maybe grouchy or whatever it is. Firstly, sometimes just taking him outside is amazing and changing his state, but also not trying to just always distract him from how he's feeling, and trying to encourage, like, sometimes, you're going to feel a bit upset, and that's okay. Not to just try to distract, or like, I think, you know, what I've certainly done in the past, probably all been there when we were younger, you might just, you know, turn to different vices, whether it's, you know, alcohol for some people, or you know, bluey, that's now it's the modern day. But you know, something that, you know, just, you know, we all do. I mean, for a lot of people, it's their phone, and there's obviously some more sinister ones as well. But you know, that's what I've definitely tried to work on over the last few years, is not just turning to those when you're through it. And actually to sometimes sit with it, because it's all just your body trying to tell you something, you know, like a feeling of anxiety is just your body trying to tell you that something's not quite right, and you know, it's a beating drum that just gets louder if you keep suppressing it. So trying to address that, otherwise that comes out in whether, you know, I think for a lot of blokes especially, they'll probably just get angry because they may be actually sad and they don't know what's going on. Something I read recently is that most blokes can only name like 5 different emotions, and and I'm not saying I'm really good at it either, but that's interesting in itself. Like you might say, oh, I'm just like really mad, but you might not be. You might be actually sad about something. But checking in and knowing what's actually going on is what I see as more mindfulness.
Have you seen the emotional wheel? The emotional wheel?
Yeah,
before?
and there's like all these different. Yeah,
that's a really good
and
tool.
what one means what. Yeah, you should share that. That's actually really
it's really cool. It's a way to kind of like, you're like, oh, I feel angry. Like, what kind of angry are you feeling?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm feeling frustrated. And then it's like, well, what kind of frustrated are you feeling? And I think most of them have like 3 tiers.
Yeah.
And then you like finally get to the last one. You're like, oh, that's what I'm feeling. You're like, cool. Next time, like, so I wasn't actually feeling angry. I'm feeling frustrated at the situation or whatever. You can really start really getting underneath those basic emotions and really identifying the cause of what you're feeling. And
maybe if someone is angry in that moment, maybe don't show them the wheel. Are you
Here's
really
the wheel.
angry, or are you
shove that wheel like that?
I think for me as well, like answering your question of the difference is mindfulness is definitely the bigger picture, and meditation is one part of mindfulness. So mindfulness is the toolbox, and meditation is one part of that in there.
Yeah.
That helps you feel better.
Yeah. Adam started throwing in beta, alpha, and theta.
He's smart on this shit.
I just read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing on your laptop?
Maybe we'll share a bit of like what we're currently doing, because I know that we all really appreciate having a mindfulness toolbox, and with life sometimes you can give your mindfulness toolbox, you can be using it all day and it can be a really big part of what you do, and then other times your life gets a little crazy and maybe you let it slip, and maybe this is a check-in for all of us.
Toolbox is collecting cobwebs at the moment.
That lock hasn't been done for ages.
That maybe we can share maybe what we're doing now, and maybe also adding in how that could look a lot better. And maybe this is all our little accountability check-in to maybe start getting back into our toolboxes.
Yeah, for sure.
I like it. Do you want me to start?
Yeah,
you go, mate.
I have a couple of things. One of them I haven't missed a beat, and it's been really, really good, and it's in the evenings. I actually kind of took inspiration from you, Shelby, I think, with this. Because,
happens.
I've got a little journal, and I write 3 things that I want to achieve the next day, and then I also write 3 things that I'm grateful for from that day, which is amazing. It's just like you recollect your day and go through it, and it's funny. Your brain just has a highlights reel. You don't think about anything bad. Not once. It's only what's good, because you're in that frame of mind of I'm feeling grateful, and what am I grateful for? So that's really, really incredible. And I know I've heard so many people bang on about that in the past and going, what a load. But now I've done it, and I've kept going it for, I reckon, good 6 months at least. I haven't missed a day.
Good job.
I'm running out of book space.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then the other one that I haven't been as good, just because, this is my excuse coming out, but my mornings have been a little bit unstructured, just with Lenny getting up at different hours and stuff. But I do love to try to start each day with either a short breathwork session or a meditation, just as a check-in to see how I'm feeling for that day. And honestly, just to, sometimes you might be like, I'm feeling amazing, and then you're like, cool, and then other days you're like, I'm not feeling that great, and then just to go, okay, well that's just how we're feeling for this moment. And that doesn't also have to be your whole day. That could just be, break into a bit of sports analogy, that could just be your first quarter. You're not feeling amazing, so you just you act accordingly. You maybe just take the pressure off yourself, and maybe that day is not the day where you're going to try to, I don't know, be a hero and take on the world, but
shoot a 3-pointer.
Yeah, to win the buzzer beater.
Yeah. Continue on with the sports analogy.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's all right, man. I got you.
Anyway, that's my practice. So some gratitude in the evenings, which I also love, because you go to sleep just with a smirk on your face, and then try to start my day with some sort of morning meditation.
Yeah, I love that.
Which has also been some runs as well, and getting some early morning sun.
Running's a form of mindfulness too. I would totally back that.
Yeah, and that has been really good. But I'm sick of talking about running at the moment.
We're not bringing it up. We are not talking about the run on the weekend.
Don't say it.
I was going to bring it up before with something to do with mindfulness, and I don't do it.
Is that one of those things where you're like, oh, don't bring it up?
No, we
us to be
actually
like,
don't.
oh, we guys just read.
No, we actually don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't.
No,
Last
right,
night I
right.
went to bed dreaming, thinking about floor grinders.
Yeah, because you
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
do
that's
any
cool.
kind of mindfulness before.
That's your
then.
goal for the day. Yeah.
Okay, share us your current toolbox.
Oh, Jack, absolute shit. That's what my kind. No, it isn't. I do things. I'm very grateful that I've got some habitual stuff that I do without even knowing that I do it. Jumping in the ocean, I pretty much get there every day, which is good. That's just kind of my go-to. For me, like I spoke about earlier, that's almost a non-negotiable for me most days that I go down and jump in there. My ideal day, and I do this at the moment. I'm going to use the B word.
No, don't.
I've got a lot going on.
Yeah, that's better.
There's a lot going on. So, and I know it sounds like an excuse, and it probably is, and that's totally fine. But there's peaks and there's troughs in our lives, and we don't have this perfect schedule that we always have to hit. But what I would like to get back into is I definitely start the day with at least 5 minutes of breathing. So I have my little morning routine. I try and do that most mornings. So
What's the technique you use just to give people? Because
so-
people are saying breathing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, look, you're not just holding your breath.
Actually, since the app's come out, I've just been doing Katie every single morning, which is brilliant. And which really worked in well because I use the 4-7-8 technique most mornings. So inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale out of the mouth for 8 seconds. Just to really down. I wake up in the morning and I've got quite high cortisol levels. I'm quite an anxious morning person. So for me, it's really important that I just calm the nervous system down. Some people wake up in the morning and they need a bit of a jazz up. I'm not that person, so I chill out a little bit in the morning with that. So Katie's morning breath work, I forget the name of the one, but I think she's got a couple on there. So I'm playing a bit of feet at the moment. So I just do that for, I think it goes for 7 minutes. So I do that. And then generally when I'm in a really good routine, I'll do a 20-minute meditation or my ERP session. So without diving too much into it, I guess I have OCD. So one of the treatments for that is exposure response therapy. So I do that kind of, I guess, mindfulness, which involves a lot of just like sitting with thoughts, which is really good. So it's another form of mindfulness practice, I guess. Or if I'm not doing that for the day, I'll just do some longer 20-minute mindfulness practices, which sometimes involve breath work, sometimes they don't, sometimes they involve just like a meditation. But like I said, I'm exercising every day, which is another form of mindfulness, and I do jump in the ocean most days, or if I'm lucky to at the moment get a surf in, and that's really another big one for me. So yeah, they're my practices. Like I said, the toolbox has got a few cobwebs on at the moment, but yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, mine is very much like Adam. So I'm the opposite account. I wake up in the morning with quite a lot of energy and I can jump out of bed and I feel pretty good in the mornings. Mine is shutting down at the end of the day is the difficulty for me. Closing off my brain when it's time to go to sleep and not thinking too much about things that have happened throughout the day. So journaling for me, I set myself the goal of 100 days of journaling and
Smashed it.
I'm up to 146 days.
Yeah, and actually keeps the light on for a lot longer than I'd like in bed, to be honest.
So I actually started with just 3 things that I was grateful for because I had tried journaling in the past and I could just never get the habit. I might started for a few days. I'm like,
once you write my name down 3 times, what do you do after that?
Nothing much more to write about. No, I started with 3 things that I was grateful for and it has really evolved into like a real recap of my day. And sometimes I feel like I could put the negative things in that might have happened or how I might have felt or how I maybe even overcame it. Yeah, it's really turned into like a bit of a recap journal of all the things that had happened and the good parts of my day where I felt maybe supported or that I was grateful for. So that has been a huge one for me, and the fact that I've been able to keep that now, it has become such a natural thing for me to do at the end of the night. It really helps. As soon as I shut that journal, I can turn my light off and my brain is really quiet.
Yeah.
So it's really like, I like to see results for me to be able to keep going with something. And so when I was able to just turn the light off and then my brain wasn't ticking over with a to-do list or 100 things I needed to do tomorrow, I found like that really helped. And I think for me, the other big part of might not even, I don't know if this falls under mindfulness, but a big part of my day is just some silence of like not having anything around me.
Cal, isn't it?
Hey, yeah, it never shuts up. No, just having some silence of like, it doesn't need to be for me like a really strong breathwork session. It's just things are down, no one's around, and I can just sit and be really quiet for 5 minutes, and then I feel so much better. So I think that's a big one that I have in my toolbox, where it just helps me get along with the rest of the day.
You know what I love about all these is that none of these are, we're not talking about like an hour for any of this.
No,
and that's one of the big things I think is you know, if you say you don't have time, that is a cop out.
Yeah.
It's just you need to make it a priority, and I think it's really important, because it's something that, you know, you'll see the effects, you know, will have a really positive impact on your life and those around you as well.
Can I ask you two both about the journaling? Because I don't journal at night. I go through stages where I do and I don't. The best part of journaling, which is one I would like to get back to, is I just kind of write out everything I have to do for the next day, right? And I want to know how you guys, how that relates back to mindfulness. Is it the fact that you get to put all the stuff on paper and then you can be present, or is it like, explain to me how the journaling ties into mindfulness practice?
For me, it's reflecting on my day. And then I feel present in how I felt through my day, like, and how I'm feeling, and so that would, for me, is how it ties back to it. Again, very similar to you, well, both of you. Like, probably most people, it's very easy to have whirring thoughts, and you know, you feel like your computer's like tabs open, and it's a really a way to like put your brain into sleep mode, for me anyway, and just really reflect. It's like a mini reflection, which is it's been really powerful for me.
Mine's similar to that. I think for me, I can be having quite a good day, or I think is quite good, and then I flick the light off to go to sleep, and all of a sudden I'm like, did I say the wrong thing, or did I do this there? And then all of a sudden these like thoughts come flooding in throughout the day that might not have, that take me away from being present to go to sleep. So I think by writing about the good things and things that I've felt really empowered by or supported by, or whatever it might be, once I've done that, it's like my brain goes, okay, you can be quiet now, and so then I can be present with going to sleep without having those worrying thoughts or the to-do list for the next day, or things that don't really even matter at 9:30 at night when you're trying to be going to sleep. So I think it's not actually the journaling itself, but it's what happens after the journaling, where it's like then I can be really present in whatever I'm doing. Like,
I would argue that, like, unless you are present, it's very hard to fall asleep. You know, like, I mean, I don't know, I could completely botch that, but like, if you're worrying about things, or you're constantly thinking about stuff in the past or stuff in the future, it's probably like, nights for me are fine. Like, you know me, I would just fall asleep, click of fingers, which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, I can imagine that, because my cortisol level's just, you know, so mellow, and then at night, like if I have a really bad day of anxiety, it all goes after like 3 or 4 o'clock, and I could name it to the hour. I'm like, it's gonna go soon, and it'll just go, and then all of a sudden I don't have a worry. Afternoons for me are so good, right? And I don't mean that to gloat, because I have a lot of very shitty mornings. So it's a nice contrast. But yeah, I would argue that perhaps you do have to be present. That's why the journaling helps, right? You have to be just comfortable in that space, and just being like, you know what, I got everything out I need to do. I've been able to reflect on the day, and I'm actually able to reflect on how I'm feeling now, right, in this moment about the day. And then that allows you to kind of just like, I can drift off to sleep now.
I agree.
And you know, there's no scientific evidence that I've got from that. I've done zero research, and I'm just kind of
going off your feel.
I think there's a what we call like a closed, like an open loop system, and I remember reading about waiters.
This actually is science.
Well, no, not really. But waiters at high-end restaurants, and they can, you know, they take your order and they don't write anything down. They've got this amazing recall. but they only have that whilst the table is open. So, but then and they can name any source or whatever, all the fine details. But as soon as that table's is shut, and that reservation is shut, it's like a closed loop, and then they couldn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
But it was just like almost like an open loop, and then I feel like it's maybe on a big scale, it's like an open loop for your day, and then it's like I'm like, okay, I've written that down. Well, it's like closing my book for the night, and then I'm like bang, and I'm like
literally too, because if you're journaling, you are closing your book.
Exactly.
Speaking of that, we should probably close the book. I think we've talked about mine.
Welcome for that segue, mate.
Yeah, that was good. That was nice.
Well, that was fun to talk about. Actually, we do have quite a lot to say when it comes to the big umbrella of mindfulness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is awesome, and I'm so excited for people to hear Katie in the breathwork sessions. And
she's got a voice of an angel.
You are gonna love her.
Like Sarah McLachlan. The Sarah McLachlan of breathwork.
Wait till we
What sings Angel? That song?
Oh, okay.
We'll play it. Okay, no. Let's not. So excited for you guys to see and hear Katie in the app, and hopefully we'll bring her on here really soon.
Yeah, look forward to it.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
See ya.